evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, October 8, 2019. Would you all at this time stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you all remain standing for 10 seconds of silence? Thank you. You may be seated. Deanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Kupferman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Palumbo has to be excused. Commissioner Fly.
Here.
Commissioner Hanna.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here. And I'd like to introduce you tonight to Bodie Ehlers, who is in the Excel program at Largo and asked to shadow the commission tonight. And so I hope we all do a very good job so that he knows exactly what to write in his reports if he has to. Bodie, would you like to just say a couple words about what you're doing at school and what grade you're in?
Of course. I'm very happy to be a part of my Excel program at Largo High because it gives me the opportunity to come out and experience careers that I have interest in and different activities I wouldn't normally be able to enjoy. Very, very happy that Mrs. Kennedy allowed me to come and sit here and listen in on the proceedings tonight.
With that, we'll have agenda item number 1, which is the report of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Bodie, good to see you here. Overall, the month of September, again, quiet, nothing significant to report. And of note, I guess I would say that there was one grand theft auto that occurred near the Holiday Inn, not a resident of the city, somebody visiting, and it was an older car, easy access to the vehicle, so there's really nothing I can touch on in regards to that. The other thing, one burglary within the city. It was a citizen coming in, visiting the city, left a purse in the back seat. As I would always suggest to residents and visitors alike, don't leave anything in the open within the vehicle. And again, leave it inside, locked inside the trunk if you're going to be going out to the beach for the day. Other than that, that's really about it. Deputies continue to monitor any violations within the city, traffic enforcement, noise ordinance violations, and anything else significant.
Thank you. Does anyone on the commission have any questions or comments for the Sheriff's Department? Bodie, do you have any questions you want to ask?
Nothing, Bodie? Come on. Something.
Thank you.
All right, y'all take care.
I always like to remind everybody that before our meeting at 6:45 till 7, that the police sheriffs will be here in case you would like to talk to them personally before the meeting. Thank you. At this time, we'll have public comment. Any member of the audience may come forward, give their name and address, and state any comment or concern that they may have concerning any matter over which the City Commission has control, excluding agenda items. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening.
Hi, Kelly.
My name is Kelly Sistrick. I live at 448 Harbor Drive South. I want to give some input on an important item on the consent agenda tonight. Our commission has a vacation rental letter ready to be signed and sent to the governor and select state officials. This letter is in the agenda package and it expresses the concerns of the commission regarding our city's inability to zone and properly regulate short-term vacation rentals. I wholeheartedly agree with the general theme of that letter, and I'll continue to be active in supporting home rule zoning for short-term rentals during the next legislative session. I know several of our commissioners have contacted or met with lawmakers during the 2019 legislative session, and I would urge you to do so again next session because it's going to take a big effort to retain or hopefully regain any control of residential vacation rentals. As our Representative Nick DeSigley stated last month at this meeting, he expects to see a short-term rental bill filed prior to the January 2020 legislative session. Last session, there were 6 bills, so I expect to see a few more than just one. DeSigli and Representative Jennifer Redd both co-sponsored the same House Bill 1129 in the last session. That bill was in favor of licensing requirements for vacation rentals. That was at the state level, and that would have replaced our city's own licensing requirements. But that still was probably the best of the 6 bills in the last session, in my opinion. I hope they will both be more involved in this area next session, Representatives Webb and DeSigli, that is. And I hope you will be urging them to sponsor a bill that the beach cities can support. Senator Brandis actually gutted the worst of the 2017 vacation rental bills. So I think he should be contacted for support as well. Our beach cities need to be ready to respond with a lobbying effort before January when the new session starts. The Florida League of Cities has not been very effective in lobbying in this area. Our city should be joining with groups in other cities who have their own lobbyists already working in Tallahassee. That means you need to authorize some funding for this effort ASAP, along with other beach cities involved at the Big C. They actually have more to lose than us since they retain their grandfathered zoning. Our city's letter tonight and the Big C press conference last month were a good start, but we need to put some money where our mouths are. And for anyone who belongs to the Chamber of Commerce or the Pinellas Realtors Organization, you need to tell those groups that having 0 restrictions on short-term rentals has been harmful to our communities. I feel these groups have been a part of our problems in past years, and they need members who will promote change from within. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Bill Thomas. I live at 470 20th Avenue, Short-Term Rental Avenue. No, I'm just kidding. The city has already adopted ordinance 2018-01 to regulate short-term rentals. It was implemented about a year ago. This was to resolve the issues and the complaints that people had concerning short-term rentals. This took a lot of work on the city's part and also on a lot of residents that had short-term rentals. And I would like to point out that how many complaints has the city received in the past year on the short-term rentals? Does the city have a record of that? No? Okay, so there's no record of it. I would like to make also a separation in the difference between short-term rentals that are not managed on site versus residential residents that are on site, that do rent out a bedroom or two in their own private residence. And I went and looked, and these cities have adopted that ordinance and stating that the primary residents are only allowed to have short-term rentals. Boston, Seattle, Denver, Miami, Santa Monica, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York have all adopted the issues of allowing short-term rentals only in residential residences or permanent residents. And I would really like to see the city consider that. In addition, the letter that's being sent out, I just found out about it by just looking at your agenda. I would highly recommend that the city disseminate this letter that's going out that may affect over 180 businesses that are running short-term rentals in Indian Rocks Beach, so they are aware of what's happening here and what the City Commission is deciding to do. I recall before that there was a letter sent out by the Commission that a lot of residents weren't aware of, and we all wound up with a blue t-shirt, you know, and I won't go any further than that. So please do not make the same mistake again. I really request that the city send out a copy to all the residents or property owners, or have a vote or a survey or something to show that the proof is on your letter is justifiable. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill.
Hi, I'm Dana Thomas. I live at 470 20th Avenue. I'm the same residence as he. I just want to say we were kind of surprised that something is you all are trying to do something so quickly after you made rules for short-term rentals, and we followed them to the T. I also was presented with a letter which I would like to read to you from one of our neighbors. And I will give that to Greg Mims afterwards, and it's signed by them. To the City of Indian Rocks Beach, with your address. To whom it may concern, we live at 472 20th Avenue, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, and my neighbors, Dana and William Thomas, have been hosting guests through short-term rentals at their residence, which is 470 20th Avenue, Indian Rocks Beach, for approximately 2 years, and we have no complaints about any of their guests thus far. We have actually enjoyed meeting their guests, and many of them have been from other countries, which we found fascinating. We have lived in Indian Rocks Beach for 20 years, and we have no complaints about short-term rentals. Sincerely, Jerry and Roger Zing, and I can present that to him. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dana.
Mayor, Commissioners, and I'm sure future Commissioner. Appreciate your time. My name is Aidan Bowles. I live at 530 Harbour Drive North, Indian Rocks Beach. I am also the owner of Salt Public House at 1309 Gulf Boulevard. I have invested $650,000 of my personal money in this business. I've been a property owner in Indian Rocks Beach for 30 years, since 1989, and I think I have the best interest of the city at heart. I think we have added a tremendous asset to Indian Rocks Beach. We have nothing but the most positive response from both visitors and locals alike. The health inspector said to me 2 days ago, I wish everybody else would follow your example. We have had exemplary record with all of the authorities, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation and every other department. I was visited yesterday or the day before by a gentleman from the city who has apparently our little bitty 7-inch by 36-inch sign, which informs people of what's going on inside of our business, has flown in the face of some ordinance. It's interesting that I spent $5,000 on drawings for the building at 2701 Gulf Boulevard when I purchased it for $625,000 in cash to put Salt up on 27th Avenue, only to come to the commission meeting and our learned attorney in here informed the attorney that because we were too close to the gas station, we couldn't sell alcohol there. That has since been rescinded. However, I had the $5,000. I also had $150,000 in sales because our esteemed building inspector had a bad back, which set us back opening by 6 weeks. However, I had that $150,000. But in my opinion, this ordinance with regard to signs is patently ridiculous. This is a discreet sign. Each of these signs cost me $350. They were put up discreetly. They are not overt. They don't say girls, girls, girls like you'd see in Bourbon Street. These are just simply discreet signs, 7 inches tall, 36 inches wide, above our garage doors, and it just informs people, visitors and locals alike, as to what is going on. NHL ticket, NFL ticket, happy hour, so on and so forth. So I would plead that we have some sort of a variance or some common sense sign ordinance in Indian Rocks Beach that allows people to discreetly show what is happening inside of their premises, not in some flashy fashion, but in a 2019 state-of-the-art billboard. It's not a billboard, it's a little bitty sign that says, this is what we do in here, please come in. And that's really all I have to say. Like I say, I think I've added an asset to the city. I have the best interest of the city at mind. I'm not trying to fly in the face of it. So we have stilled the signs. So now one says open, the other says happy hour, and the other one says sports. And that's all they show right now because we don't want to be in breach of the ordinance, so we're fully in compliance with the ordinance.
But that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Appreciate it.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, young man. My name is Michael W. Davis, past resident, recent past resident, 34 years in Bronx Beach, current resident, 14130 Rosemary Lane, just across the pond. I own Davis Uncles Realty, been involved in a qualitative manner in various volunteer endeavors all my last 3 decades. My purpose here is to inform the city regarding some best practices in licensing and taxation of short-term rentals. And anyone that is owning a property that I've talked to, many of them being around here for years, would gladly pay a suitable application fee. That fee is called BTR. We know what that is. Business tax receipt. So currently, we're at $15, and I'll expand on that a little bit later. Obtaining the data that Indian Rocks Beach needs to understand the true scale and scope of obtaining the community's short-term vacation rental industry proper information. Good policy making requires good data on the short-term vacation rental industry in our specific jurisdiction. Proprietary data can provide deep insights into the scale and scope of the short-term rental activity in any jurisdiction and its different areas, neighborhoods, and blocks. I have spent countless hours in making this concise presentation and scoping out not just out of curiosity throughout the country, but more specifically the state of Florida, and then more specifically ratcheting that down to beach towns. Data can be collected weekly, and then that aggregate and deduplicate all listing data, reviews, calendar info, and photos across approximately 54 of your top short-term rental listing sites. Companies that offer these services in an a la carte menu to cities like ours estimate this represents 99% of the total vacation rental universe in most jurisdictions. Let me kind of pose a quick question to the city. Approximately how many vacation rentals does the city of Indian Rocks Beach register? Anybody?
Mike, please address the commission and not the staff.
Okay.
You have
We're not having a dialogue.
Yes.
Please just continue with your
It's an opportunity for public comment. This is
Okay.
not a Q&A.
Thank you.
meeting.
It's been a long time since I've been up here. Data can be segmented and analyzed along any imaginable parameter to get the answers that the city needs to evaluate fair and effective short-term regulations for IRB. Equally important, the ability to tee up the short-term rental debate based on facts can often be the difference between a healthy, data-informed public discourse and a less productive and drawn-out public process that leads to unnecessary controversy, neighborhood tension, and decision-making based on hearsay, fear, and anecdotal evidence. Let's say if the city has about...
Michael, you're going to have to wrap it up. We only do 3 minutes now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I thought I had it. I would suggest raising the business tax receipt to say $350 to $400. Currently, say if we have 150 rentals at $15, that's approximately $2,250. The estimation board comes in around $600. So if you're charging around $350 per rental, that increases the revenue to the city by $210,000 a year. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up at this time?
Good evening.
Hi,
John Fansteel, 448 Harbor Drive South. I'd like to say thanks to Greg and Dean for putting the labels on the recycle containers. That is the most effective way to reduce contamination, especially by visitors, renters, and guests. And also, I want to thank them for putting this really well done illustration of what you can recycle and what you can't recycle. If space permits, it'd be great if it makes it into that again, because people forget, people move in, move out, and some of our residents aren't even here at the moment. Since that has come to be, I'd like to make another signage suggestion, and that's because 2 real tragic deaths occurred on our bridge. And our bridge is a little different because you have a straight span and then it sharply curves. There's a small sign before the span, but I think it would be really wise, if you're concerned about this, to put a larger sign right at the curve itself. When I was out traveling, I took a picture of one, I'll drop that off. As you'll see what I'm talking about when you go on the bridge. You have this little, everything looks fine, and then all of a sudden you're there and it's twisting like that. So that's another suggestion. I wanted to thank Diane for making that legislative letter happen. Like Kelly said, I think that's a very good start. For future legislative action to happen, there's 2 other things that need to occur. Like Kelly said, cities have to band together. They have to get aggressive. They have to make it a priority. And the second thing is that voters need to know how our legislators are acting on these issues. And you can go to the website, it won't tell you a thing. There's nothing about that. I've looked. So I think it would be, if we're concerned about short-term rentals, it would be good to inform the voters who is for and who is against taking away short-term regulations and place the contact information of those legislators on the website. Also, we have something very effective, some very effective local resources in this cause. One of our neighbors went to Tallahassee and she generated a lot of good press. And she was first to describe short-term rentals as unattended hotels, which I think is a great image. Another senior spoke very well for his association. I think it really helps to have people who are personally affected by adjacent short-term rentals in these discussions. And lastly, I hope we can make an exception for rentals that are inside an owner's house. Those, in a sense, are like micro B&Bs, and I'm not aware of any problems that have been caused by those. So thank you for listening to these suggestions.
Thank you, John.
Good.
Is there anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Tyler Fisher. I'm at 1815 27th Avenue West, Bradenton, Florida. I was invited here by Michael Douglas. For full disclosure, I am an employee of a vendor that we provide short-term rental enforcement, regulation, assistance, consulting, taxation, and also permitting. And just want to be able to provide insight into what's available for city resources to really create the best environment for kind of a safe community. We have been operating since 2011 to provide cities and counties across the country with not only software solutions, but expert guidance to create the best regulations and also the best solutions to kind of not only employ those online solutions for permitting and enforcement, but also notifications that go out to short-term rental operators. But it really, where this industry is right now is kind of at this flux right now. As you can tell, it's definitely a heated topic without a doubt. And kind of on both sides of the spectrum, there are definitely arguments for both. And we've been in this industry for an extended period of time, and a lot of feedback from not only communities, but the county level too. And there's definitely a good meeting place in the middle where you can create a standard of practice and an equal playing field for all short-term rental operators and the neighbors there too. You know, one of the key things is definitely, as we heard, possible complaints, giving neighbors the opportunity to raise complaints through an orderly fashion and have that responsibility kind of designated to short-term rental operators through a responsible party where they could act and not kind of put that back on city resources. As Michael kind of alluded to, respective fees too, we do find that short-term rental operators, they view this as a cost of business. So when you're looking at creating permitting and registration fees,
they're most likely more than willing to abide by those fees because you do have a lot of investors in the short-term rental space too. So you have on one end the short-term rentals that are hosted, where you have the owner, primary residence living on site, and then you have the unhosted short-term rentals. Where these unhosted short-term rentals, you can definitely have instances of kind of the more investor opportunity there, the property managers and so on and so forth. And really, the property managers, I would just say they tend to play by the rules by and large. This is their bread and butter. This is their obligation to the property owners, and this is their job. So by and large, they are playing by the rules. But looking at the data for Indian Rocks Beach, there are about 1,685 advertisements out there for short-term rentals in Indian Rocks Beach, and really kind of determining right around 550 to 600 short-term rentals operating in the space. So I just want to come up and make you aware of short-term rentals kind of in the area, and some of the best practices, and just say that there are extensive resources out there, not only our company, Lodging Revs, but different consulting agencies and expert resources to really help your community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up at this time? Okay, with that, I will close public comment. Reports of the city attorney. Randy, do you have a report tonight?
No report, Mayor.
Okay, does anyone on the commission have any questions or comments for the city attorney?
I have a question. Is
Yes.
there a level of fee which is considered exorbitant? Maybe you can come back at a later meeting and just fill us in terms of doing some research and benchmarking.
As to business tax receipts, we can certainly look into that.
Thank you, Ed. Report of the city manager. Greg?
Thank you. Good evening. I just have two or three things quickly to go over. I would like to put in the record the amount of donations that we received from three primary organizations, total $69,330, of which A2K donated $58,895. The homeowners donated $10,235, and Rotary donated $200. We normally would update or amend the budget to reflect there's not been enough activity. The budget ended up so well that there's not a need to do that. So I'll just ask this to be placed in the record, and I'll get this to the clerk to reflect the information. And we sincerely appreciate, like we've said many times, the partnership that we have with all our volunteers, particularly A2K and the homeowners for all they do for the city. Second thing I'd like to mention to the commission, I'll send you a copy of this tomorrow, is that I filled out a funding request to Senator Brandis through his staff to fund the replacement and updating of the lighting at the baseball field. The lighting that we have on our field is very old, very energy consuming. Senator Brandis helped the city of Madeira Beach 2 or 3 years ago with some state funding to replace lighting at ball fields. If we're able to do this and put in LED lights, it would save, the savings just energy-wise is about 40%. So we made a request for $140,000, of which about 26,000 would be the city's match. So as we know, they go in session this spring, so even if we got some appropriation through the state, it'd be some months after before we'd actually have the funds. But I wanted to get out ahead of that, and we put in this funding request, and we'll see where it goes. And I'd ask you, after we send this to each of the commissioners, if you can just follow up with an email, a phone call to the members of the local delegation, because that's really kind of how this process works. If the local delegation's in agreement about a funding request, they usually go through. So this is a much needed improvement we need to make to our baseball field. So we're going to make a run at it and see what we get. And I'll also do my own follow-up with his staff and other staff. Give you an update about the undergrounding project. You probably saw some activity out today at the intersection. That's the last little stretch where the conduit's being placed underground for the undergrounding project. That'll take about 2 weeks to put the conduit in and pour the sidewalks back. And when that's finished, then our contractor in effect is complete. and they will then just monitor Duke Energy and the other utilities when they start pulling the cable to eventually take the power lines down. And the last thing is, today we started the process. You mentioned the commission some months back that we've applied for a grant through Duke Energy for a couple of charging stations for electric vehicles. By the end of this month, there'll be one installed right here in front of City Hall and another one down by the post office. So that'll be something that'll be done by the end of the month. And we mentioned that to the commission a while back. So there's just updates on projects, and thanks again to A2K and the homeowners for working so well with us to get so much done here. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments? No? Okay, then we'll go to the commission. Commissioner Hanna, do you have a report today?
No report, but I would like to say to John and the rest, I do like what I heard as far as the short-term rental, getting people organized a little bit, and I would suggest that possibly, even though there's not a lot we can do because we're so controlled by the state, but it certainly would be good to have a workshop on this, and I'd like to offer that as a consideration to take these ideas that we heard tonight, pool them together. There are two sides to every story, as we know. Michael, I've had discussions with you regarding the dollar amount. Not going to hurt, as Tyler brought up, the folks that, like you, Bill, that have in your house. That to me is fine. I don't see a problem there. But the folks who've come in buying up these properties and putting 15, 18 people in a two-bedroom, playing the game, they're ruining it for everyone else. I do know there's short-term rental right across the street from us. We've had no problems. People seem very nice, want to keep it that way. So how can we work together to make them feel welcome and part of our community, let the business people make a couple of dollars, but at the same time, keep it organized. I've been a proponent of a minimum of 1 month minimal for rental on these areas. Flash and Joe, who used to live here but unfortunately went out, this was a discussion that we had. Everybody that I speak with seems to think 1 month minimum would be something they could get along with. So just throw that out to the commission for a future date to see if we can have something on that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Phil.
Don't normally intervene in commissioner comments. I just want to reiterate the point that at present, we are preempted from regulating the duration or frequency of short-term rentals. So as we have any discussions or have the ambition of future discussions, we need to temper those within the bounds of what we can actually regulate.
Commissioner Flagg, do you have a report tonight?
I think what I'd like to do on tonight's consent agenda is the letter that we're going to be sending out not only to the governor but local delegation, Florida House and Senate leadership. So I'd like to read that tonight so everyone will be aware of what's going out and the first of steps that we can take to keep talking about the short-term rentals, how we can get our home rule under control if possible. So this one is going to Governor DeSantis. It says, the city of Indian Rocks Beach appreciates your service to the state of Florida. Historically, cities in Florida were allowed by home rule to develop and adopt land development codes that reflected the character of our communities. In 2011, the state abolished the right of local governing bodies to regulate vacation rentals. In 2014, the Florida Senate passed a bill by a vote of 37-2 to fully repeal the 2011 law. The vacation rental lobby diluted the final bill, which resulted in the passage of a bill that created more confusion. The subsequent effect resulted in the establishment of incompatible vacation rental housing operations in traditional residential areas. In our residentially zoned areas, conversion of traditional single-family homes to commercial vacation rental operations are occurring here on a daily basis. In the last 6 months, over 130 homes have been converted. Many homes are being purchased by non-resident investors who do not share the small town feel or concerns of our residents. The character of our traditional neighborhoods is drastically being altered as they evolve from residential to commercial operations. The evolution creates public safety-related issues, as well as these dwellings are not subject to the same fire and safety codes as traditional commercial operations. For many years, our codes provided protection and a sense of place for all of our zoning districts. These provisions provided a great diversity for rental opportunities, but also gave our residents in residential zones the peace of mind that their homesteaded property was protected. For the majority of people that purchase a home, it is the largest financial investment of their lives. Many of our full-time residents now feel that their property rights have been compromised and their quality of life forever changed. The elimination of hometown rule as it relates to vacation rentals has resulted in many Burt Harris claims in response to local government's efforts to find alternative legislative solutions. The city of Anna Maria Island is facing claims totaling $5.3 million and $22.7 million in Flagler County. Some of these claims have been settled, resulting in large monetary costs. Our city embraces tourism, but the pervasive conversion of traditional single-family homes to commercial operations is not an appropriate change to the character of our city. Airbnb contributed over $1.2 million to state political campaigns during the 2018 election cycle. Our small city cannot compete with these resources. All of these issues were created by the 2011 law that deviated from the traditional principle of home rule. The Florida legislature and governors should allow local governments like ours to manage our communities and zoning districts by returning to traditional Florida home rule principles. Allowing the expansion of vacation rentals in our neighborhoods without local control should have never occurred. The city of Indian Rocks Beach urges the Florida legislature and Governor DeSantis to take the necessary steps to restore home rule and the ability to regulate vacation rentals to local governments like ours. This letter will be signed by all the commissioners and the mayor this evening and go out, Deanne said, to all listed besides Governor DeSantis. It's a first step, and as many of you mentioned tonight, there's more we can do to keep on the forefront. Not to eliminate, and certainly not to deprive people of rental opportunities, but to keep the playing area even for especially the people in our town that have been residents for many years and purchase homes under their homesteaded properties in our residential areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you for reading the letter. Commissioner Huffnagel?
Okay, thanks. I don't want to steal all of your calendar, but I'm going to talk about Oktoberfest.
That's
That's
perfectly
okay.
fine.
All right. So on Saturday, I will take my commissioner shirt off and put on one of those Oktoberfest shirts because I have gladly accepted the role of the servant of Oktoberfest. And I say that because there's 120 volunteers who are going to be actively engaged in running Oktoberfest on Saturday. Not to mention the city, thank you to Greg and all the staff and workers who would go the extra mile to get it set up, provide for the infrastructure, the security, and the enjoyment of a day of festivities where we raise some money that goes back into the community. Those funds are used, invested in preservation and enhancement of our city. That's where they go. The funds go, and then they go right into the city. They don't go anywhere else. They stay here. As the person who gets the project plan for the whole event, I'm doing this, I think, the 19th year, but I didn't start it. This happened way before I even moved here. Ann, just stand up and acknowledge. Ann's husband, John, he was the visionary who started Oktoberfest, and he ran it for a long time. Turned into a book of what to do, and then it filtered through servants like me. Rebecca, I know you did it some. Diane, I know you did. There were other chair people of this event that I don't want to neglect. But I want to thank all of the volunteers, all of the chairs who run the event, and encourage all of you to ask your family, friends, even people you don't like, even if they are in a short-term rental, ask them to come over to Oktoberfest and have some good community fun on Saturday. I have a couple other items of business, but I'm going to bring them up under additions and deletions if that's okay. Okay, thank you.
Just like to give you the calendar and make a few comments. For the month of October, we have our first would be the 8-2K meeting, which is October 14th, and Commissioner Hofnagel has already told you that our event, the Oktoberfest, is this Saturday. We will have the Big C at 9 a.m. on October 30th, Wednesday morning. That'll be in Bel Air Beach. And then we go to November 2nd from 1 to 3. We'll have the second women's tea at the Church of the Isles. And then I always like to bring up the conversation with the mayor. We have that the first Monday of the month, and that will be the 4th of November. The Indian Rocks homeowners will have their November 5th, from 7 to 8, their quarterly meeting. And then I think that'll do us until our next commission meeting, which will be November 12th. We want to bring forth the fact that it was mentioned briefly that all of the mayors in our city hall did a press conference that was on Channel 13 and some of the other local channels. Starting out, as we know, the legislators at this time of year, they go to Tallahassee and they work on their bills, which have to be at the middle of November. The copies, they have to be in full form. And so that's what they're doing now as they work in their committees. And we wanted to be, the mayors of the beaches wanted to be proactive and say, this is how we are, this is how we feel, and we can go on from all of the comments that you made, and we can work from that if you'd like. So I did want to mention that the mayors have been very, very proactive, as everybody knows. And just to want to build Thomas's comments, I can tell you since I've been mayor that I have had anywhere from 1 to 16 people come into my meeting each month to talk about the vacation rentals on all different levels. So just so you know, I don't have a number in front of me, but I can probably look that up for you if you'd like. And I also wanted to thank everybody who came out to our visioning session that we had, our second one. It was a robust discussion. It was a full-packed room, and I think it went very well. I know that the city, and I know that Ford Pinellas, and how did the commissioners do you feel?
Great job.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well done. So I did want to say all of that, and are there any additions and deletions at this time, Ed?
I would, based on some feedback that people brought up, I was proposing, following up on Phil Hanna's request that there be a workshop for short-term rentals. And I'd like to wrap into that something Michael Davis brought up about fees associated with that, although not limit the workshop to that. So that would be one that I would ask us to consider. And based on what Eden Bowles brought up, I know the sign ordinance is going to be coming before us, and I'm hopeful that we'll have a workshop to review that where we can talk about things like minimalize the animated signs. So those are two items I was hoping to get on our agenda at some point and look for your consensus.
Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Deanna, if you can make note of that. With that, we will go into agenda item 5A, which is the consent agenda. Do we have any motion? And would you like to read? Would you like to read this?
Happy Mayor. Consent agenda items A through J. Item A, approval of the September 10, 2019 regular city commission meeting minutes. Item B, approval of the September 17, 2019 special city commission meeting minutes. Item C, confirming the action taken at the September 17, 2019 Special City Commission meeting. Item D, resolution number 2019-05, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, calling for a general election for the purpose of electing at-large qualified candidates to fill the vacancies of the mayor commissioner seat and 2 city commissioner seats for 2-year terms, authorizing the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections to appoint poll workers, authorizing the assignment of a polling place, establishing a candidate qualifying period, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections, and providing for an effective date. Item E, approval of a task order with Civil Serv for the survey design, permitting, SWIFTLINK coordination, and construction administration for the 319 Harbor Drive and 360 La Hacienda Drive stormwater improvements project. Item F, authorizing the city manager to sign a dock lease agreement with the Pinellas County Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. Item G, approval of the short-term vacation rental letter to the governor and the Pinellas County Legislative Delegation. Item H, approval of Vice Mayor Commissioner Nick Palumbo's absence from the October 8, 2019 regular City Commission meeting. Item I, proclamation proclaiming October 21 through the 27th, 2019 as Florida City Government Week. And item J, proclamation proclaiming October 12, 2019 as IRB Action 2000 Inc. Day. This is a reading of the items A through J on the consent agenda, Mayor.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted?
Motion to approve.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Deanne, would you call the roll? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Before we go on to our next item, tonight we celebrate through a proclamation from the City of Indian Rocks Beach, a worthy, wonderful, and wise group, Action 2000. An organization filled with hardworking, energetic, and do-gooders. We acknowledge the thousands of dollars over 20 years given back to this community. The projects are many: bus shelters, signage, plantings, cleanups, lighting, a pocket park, and in the future, a gazebo across the street from this auditorium. I can close my eyes and see a round table of old school IRB led by Ralph Montgomery, contemplating good works back in the late 90s. Later, future presidents, Jim Labadie, Eric Meyer, and now Julie Hofnagel, continue the focus of beautification and the partnership with the City of Indian Rocks Beach. And in a time when our world needs hope and honesty and positive images, we can share. We are anointed in IRB to have all of you in Action 2000. You are our story. And along with the commissioners, Ed and Nick and Diane and Phil and our staff, Greg Mims, we are grateful, and I thank you from my heart for your kindness and love for our community. Julie, would you please come up?
May I invite someone?
And I would like all of you to jump in. You and Ed always feel my feathers. All of you come up. We're going to get a picture too. Yes, everyone who's in Action 2000. Read this. You may all come too. Look at all that. And this is probably not even a quarter of the members, it's just so that everyone knows. The proclamation of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, whereas IRB Action 2000 Inc. found its as an outgrowth of the momentum generated by the IDEA sessions in 1997, and whereas on May 5th, 1999, a small group of focused citizens formally established a non-for-profit corporation instilled with the determination of spurring public involvement and nurturing private sector funding of community-based projects to improve the physical image of the city of Indian Rocks Beach. And whereas IRB Action 2000, Inc. is dedicated to working with residents, businesses, and city officials to continually seek positive solutions to accommodate future changes which preserve, revitalize, enrich the city of Indian Rocks Beach's unique small-town qualities in a cost-effective manner that is both beneficial and equitable to all. And whereas, furthermore, IRB Action 2000 is committed to continuing to provide aesthetic improvements to Gulf Boulevard and adjacent commercial, tourist, and residential areas with streetscape design and fundraising, all the while stimulating volunteerism and investing in assistance to the city of Indian Rocks Beach in the refinement of community planning guidelines. And whereas the IRB Action 2000 main fundraiser is Oktoberfest. And they are proud to have partnered with the city on this event since 2001. And whereas in acknowledgement that all money raised is returned to the beautification projects within the city of Indian Rocks Beach. And whereas since 2014, IRB Action 2000, Inc. has placed over $280,000 in numerous projects around the city. Now therefore I, Joanne Cookie Kennedy, Mayor Commissioner of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 12, 2019 as IRB Action 2000.
Look in this direction. Look. I've got to finish. Ed, look, Diane. Diane, over here.
Happy birthday, where's Phil? Phil.
Is everyone in? Diane, you need to move over.
Smile.
One more.
Catch up.
I just want to say something really quickly. It's our 18th year, Ed, not 19. You're making us a little older than we are. And it does take over 120 volunteers to make it happen. And Diane Flagg was also a chair for many, many years. They were talking about Oktoberfest. And as Ed mentioned, John Todia, he didn't found Oktoberfest, but he was the one that really started to transform it. And it really is also our partnership with the city. We could not do Oktoberfest without the help and work and partnership with the city. So thank you for this lovely award. We accept it with enthusiasm, and we're very excited to be honored, and we're very excited for the projects that we will work on going forward. And again, thank you to the city of Indian Rocks Beach.
Agenda item, public hearings, we have none tonight. Number 7, legislative matters, we do not have any. And so we will go to our work session item, agenda number 8, which is discussion only. And this will be about the fireworks, and I'm going to turn it over to Greg Mills.
Yeah, I was gonna start with whereas, but I won't tell you a whereas in 2013, Michelle and I moved to Indian Rocks Beach, and it's been one of the best decisions we've ever made, and we feel a part of the community, and live, work, play, that whole thing, we do it all. I'll tell you that the first weekend we were here, we stayed at the Holiday Inn, we were trying to find a place to live, and it was on July 4th weekend. And July 4th night, we had been looking, and to be honest with you, we were a little disappointed. There was, everybody wants to live in Indian Rocks Beach, and there was, at that point, not a lot of options. We wanted to lease and then figure out what we were going to buy and what we were going to do long term. But on July 4th, we'd been out all day. We went to the pool. We had a cocktail like sometimes people do in Indian Rocks Beach. We went out on the balcony, and about sunset, we saw a firework go up. And I looked at Michelle and I said, this must be the grand City of Indian Rocks Beach fireworks display. And for the next hour and a half, I thought I was in Afghanistan. but just, make light of the conversation. But this is a conversation that we need to have. I respect and understand the desire to celebrate New Year's Eve and 4th of July. I get it. Like, we grew up doing that. We lived outside the city in a rural area. We did it legally and did all that. But I, as your manager, have become more concerned about this topic as time has gone along, because if you go on the internet and Google fireworks Indian Rocks Beach, the word's gotten out that if you want to bring in literally, and we had more than one, a U-Haul truckload of fireworks, bring them to Indian Rocks Beach, and you can shoot them off at the beach. And that's problematic. One of the things I'm thankful for, just like tonight with A2K, is that Cookie initiated an effort to bring in volunteers to help, not only help clean up, but to hand out garbage bags at the, around the holidays, and ask people to pick their stuff up and all that. And that's been much appreciated. And there's a lot of individuals that never get recognized. We have people that walk the beach daily and pick up the beach, that just do it because they love our beach, they love the beach. So I'm appreciative of all those things. But the fact is, with New Year's Eve, New Year's Day particularly, in July the 5th, if we make an honest assessment of what we're picking up, 95% of what we're picking up is debris left over from mortar shells that are fired off the beach. I was at an unnamed July 4th party, and we left and we were invited to another party, walked down the beach, and then we walked the length of the beach coming back to our house. And it reminded me of why Michelle and I personally made the decision that around July 4th we avoid the beach because of the melee that goes on the beach. The city attorney provided the commission in August of 2017 a letter that basically recapped what the law is. It's illegal in Dallas County to shoot fireworks. It's illegal in the city of Indian Rocks Beach to shoot fireworks. And it's just been kind of one of those things, that has gone on. But the magnitude of what we dealt with in July, and some of the things that not only I saw, but other people saw and they complained about. Because another thing that I've seen change in 6 years is it's just not a beach thing anymore. It's turned into properties, on residential streets where one person in particular brought in a truckload, a pickup load of fireworks and set them up in the street and shut them off. And that presents all types of problems. So what I want to do now is we're going to have a discussion about the pros, a lot of cons about this topic. I'll ask 4 or 5 people to be here tonight. I'm just going to call on them if you'll allow me to do that. They'll be very brief. And then I just want to have an ending discussion. And of course, Randy, I'd encourage Randy to chime in when he wants to also about this topic and just see what y'all want to do with it. Because one thing that I've realized in working in local government for 35 years is this is a growing, call it what you want. You can call it a situation, you can call it a problem, pick your own word, but this is a growing thing that we're dealing with. And as your city manager, by being sworn in as the city manager, I'm responsible to do due diligence to enforce the ordinances and codes that you adopt. All that's done with hopefully good common sense and a lot of a lot of thought. This guy right here gets involved in a lot of common sense. He's doing a great job for us. But what I have to do is, per what is in my job description, the charter, is make you aware of operational issues. Because what I don't want to have happen is the size borders that are literally being brought into town. I don't want to not have this conversation when we have somebody seriously injured. We have one of these borders that goes off, it goes in a sliding glass door in a condo, and then attorneys, no offense, Randy, attorneys and other people get involved in it, and then, because I know what happens when that happens. I just predict whether I'm in this seat or another city manager in this seat, the elected officials will turn and look at the person, the city manager that's responsible for daily operations and basically say, you know, what's up? So we're going to have a what's up conversation tonight about this. And it's just a work session, and then it may lead to another discussion in the future. So I just want to kick that off by saying that. And I asked for Mike, Chief Burton, to come up first, and he's going to talk to you very briefly about their insights about this topic and things that they would deal with, or concerns that maybe they have, or suggestions or ideas that he has. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Point of explanation,
What is that?
I had some surgery Friday, so that explains the black eye, but you're welcome to make up any story you would like. That would be better than that one. I acknowledge that one's reasonably boring. I speak tonight as every career fire chief in the United States, because we share a common concern over fireworks. From a safety perspective and a fire perspective. The reality in Florida is virtually all fireworks to possess are illegal. I'm not going to try to be an attorney, but in simple terms, sparklers, snakes, the little things that don't leave the ground are legal, but virtually everything that leaves the ground is illegal. The sellers, the retailers in the fireworks business, the roadside stands, the big markets, they simply ask buyers to sign a waiver that says they are familiar with Florida statutes. The buyers attest that they are familiar with Florida statutes, and that they are using the fireworks to scare birds away from the agricultural property or the fish hatcheries. And I've checked in the city, I'm not able to find either of those in reality here. But, and the sellers of fireworks have no responsibility to verify what the buyer provides them. So it's a significant issue at the state level, for the state fire marshal as well, but there's no duty on the retailer to check and verify, not even due diligence on their part, other than checking the age. To help put it in perspective, the Consumer Product Safety Commission estimates approximately 13,000 annual injuries that are treated in an emergency room due to mishandling of live or misfired fireworks. 13,000 annually. And per the National Fire Protection Association, each year approximately $20 billion in property damage that come from fireworks. So it's a significant issue. This past July 4th, Jeff Strobel, the driver engineer with the Roswell, New Mexico Fire Department, was fatally injured in a fireworks accident protecting his city. And he died 20-some days later from his injuries. So it is an issue, it's a difficult issue to wrestle to the ground. At a local level, last year we had 3 fires related to fireworks and discarded materials. 2 were on the night of 4th of July, and 1 was the following morning. And we had one of our crews out helping clean up on the morning of July 5th. I share the manager's concerns that at some point, something's going to go in a direction that wasn't intended, at risk of great injuries, or a significant fire that we may or may not really struggle to handle in a condo or a residential unit. So, any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for Chief Mike at this time?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Lindsay Flynn. I'm the supervisor of the Sea Turtle Conservation Program at Clearwater Marine Aquarium. I was asked to speak tonight about how fireworks affect sea turtles, and I'm happy to leave a packet with everyone so they have some information to take home with them. July 4th is a very pivotal time for our sea turtles. It's not only a time where turtles are nesting, but also that our nests are hatching and hatchlings are trying to make it to the water. And if you take a look at your screen right now, you'll see some fireworks fall out from July 5th. There was actually a sea turtle nest less than 50 feet from that. And there are a few things that can affect our turtles, and the big one is debris. Can act as an obstruction for our turtles. So our adult nesting females will select less optimal nest sites. They can abort or even not, they can abort their nesting attempt or not come on the beach at all because there's so much debris. They can also cause our hatchlings to become impeded or entangled on the beach. So that leaves them exposed to the sun's rays where they can become dehydrated or even pass away because of that. They can become injured due to the entanglement, and they can also be vulnerable to land predators like coyotes and raccoons as a result. All the debris that was mentioned can also act as a food item, unfortunately, to our hatchlings. A lot of that aerial debris can get into the water, and those plastic bits, they have a hard time distinguishing between food item and plastic item, and our post-hatchlings, our young hatchlings, will eat those food items, thinking they're food items, they'll eat the plastic, and unfortunately they will ingest it and they can die from that. Light is also a big problem for our turtles. They use brightness as a cue once they come out of the nest environment to get to the water. It's very important that those hatchlings get to the water as quickly as they can. And they use brightness as a cue. So you can imagine that our fireworks, and combined with the lights that are left on our properties overnight, can cause a big distraction for our hatchlings. That can cause them to either go the wrong way, where they can find themselves in pools, parking lots, and roadways where they get run over by cars, or they can be found wandering the beach aimlessly where they waste all that very important energy that they need to get out into the water. Noise is another one. Females that encounter abundance of loud noises that they are not expecting can abort their nesting attempts and not come onto the beach at all. It's actually been described that simple conversations from nearby people sound like muffled, high-pitched incarnations of Charlie Brown's teachers to turtles. So you can imagine all those loud booms that the turtles hear. They are not expecting that when they come onto the beach. So that spooks them. They will leave the nest environment without depositing that clutch of eggs. They are constantly exposed to that. They can deposit their eggs in the water where they will not survive. So if they're constantly exposed to that, we will have less nests than we could have had we not had those fireworks out. It also goes without saying that there are a lot of people on the beach to enjoy those fireworks. So the increased human presence can certainly affect our sea turtle nesting as well. That can cause, again, females to abort their nesting attempts or force them to not come onto the beach at all because they are seeing a lot of things that they are not expecting. They don't see very well on land. They see about as well as we see underwater on land. So they are seeing a lot of movement on the land that is going to bother them. They're going to leave without nesting. And again, we have less nests than we could have had we not had those fireworks out. It can also cause negative impacts to our hatchlings. Unfortunately, when people see little things, they want to pick them up and see what they are. So they pick them up and they take flash photos with them and post them on social media. So we want to discourage that, mostly because it's illegal, but we want to make sure that those hatchlings are getting to the water. Only 1 in 1,000 hatchlings will make it into adulthood. It is pivotal that we get all those hatchlings into the water as quickly as possible. And finally, I do want to mention that sea turtles are protected under state and federal law. And the reason I bring that up is because I think it's important for cities to understand that cities can be vulnerable to prosecution if cities authorize certain activities that result in the take of a federally protected species. So if this is going on and this is a city authorized activity, it can be vulnerable to take prosecution. So I want the city to consider that as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Is questions for Lindsay at this time? Thank you, Lindsay.
While we're up at Audubon, you want to, and while we're just giving out, this is a photograph that I took on July 5th. There was a debris line that we raked for 4 days after the July the 4th, so that's the stuff that just get washed up. This is what, that little dark item, that's just fireworks debris.
Hi, good evening. My name is Holly Short. I work for Audubon, Florida. I am the project manager for bird stewardship and monitoring throughout the Tampa Bay area, so I work very closely with beach nesting birds here in Pinellas County. Fireworks, and particularly personal fireworks, have been observed to have negative impacts on multiple species of shorebirds and seabirds, including black skimmers and least terns, which are both listed as threatened in the state of Florida. These are colonial nesting species, and they nest along the beaches of Pinellas County. This year, black skimmers set up a colony on Indian Rocks Beach for the first time back in May. In response to fireworks set off too closely, adult skimmers and terns can flush or come up off of their nests, temporarily or permanently abandon the nesting site. This leaves both eggs and chicks vulnerable to predators or the harsh elements such as the heat of the sun. Chicks panic during firework displays, running around frightened and without the protection of their parents. The chicks are at risk when they run outside of the protective posted areas and can become separated from their parents or even stepped on and killed. Although the state hasn't set a specific distance for fireworks from birds, observations show that further fireworks are from beach nesting bird sites, the lower the risk of disturbance to the birds. Audubon, Florida's interest is in protecting these beach nesting birds. Maximizing the distance between fireworks and known beach nesting bird sites, such as the one here on Indian Rocks Beach, is beneficial for successful nesting. Thank you so much.
Holly, hold on. Does anyone have any questions for Holly?
Holly, you were here during 4th of July, or someone was.
Staff and volunteers, yes.
All right.
I would love to speak briefly if I could.
And thank you again.
Thank you very much for letting me speak. My name's Wendy Hayward, and I'm an Audubon bird steward. I was here July 4th. I was volunteering to watch over the bird colony of the black skimmers Holly was talking about. And several groups started lighting big explosive fireworks very close to the birds, and the birds were very upset and going crazy. And we went over and explained that the baby birds were a threatened species, and would they please move down the beach a bit to light off their fireworks. These groups reacted in a hostile manner. They threatened to shoot fireworks at us. They threatened to shoot fireworks at the birds. They threw beer on us. They surrounded us and chanted insults. And they actually put some of those huge mortars that you described next to us and lit them off. So we were possibly the ones that were going to have the fire chief picking us up off the ground. It was frightening, as you can tell. It's upsetting me to even talk about it. This went on for over 2 hours. We called with no response for police assistance. At the end of the night, when we were assaulted with beer, an officer did come. He stayed less than 5 minutes because they said they had had higher priority calls. And as soon as he left, the mob of people chased us. I have never been attacked by an angry, violent mob before, and this has had a profound negative effect on me. It was dangerous and frightening. I feel more withdrawn and fearful around town. I see people at the post office, the grocery store, and I honestly wonder, were you one of the ones that attacked me? I believe if there was a police presence, this would not have happened. This was a life-altering experience for me, and I don't feel safe and connected to the community in the way I did before the attacks. Thank you for letting me share this.
Thank you, Wendy.
Captain Lauder, you want to come up? And the reason why, and this may be discussion in a few minutes, but obviously, when you're weighing the city ordinance that we have that outlaws fireworks, in this, involved in the discussion about how do you handle it, what do you do about it. I've got some suggestions depending on which way you want to go with it. But Captain maybe can address their work not only here but in other cities up and down the beach.
Good evening. Obviously, as we see it's an issue. I can say it's not only Indian Rocks Beach, it's up on all the beaches. We put resources out there. Greg went so far as to actually hire another deputy specifically for Indian Rocks Beach. The problem is the volume. And realistically, as the chief was saying, there was a case law back in the day or whatever where somebody was charged for selling the fireworks. But that's where it came out of that exemption where you sign the form and then they do have no obligation therefore after that. So then they can possess them, they just can't use them unless they're scaring fisheries and all that stuff. So enforcement side, two things. Another thing is obviously volume. And the other thing is being able to do something with them to where we catch them doing it. Obviously that's not hard to, you can trip over them. So my whole thing is talking to Greg, come down and see what you want, or how would you like to proceed and all that. And as I said, we've done other resources, we put people out, but it's realistically, when I'd gone down, we get the one group, and then 100 feet down, and you're going 100 feet down, and then another group's over here by the time you're 200 feet down. So it's kind of problematic, but we need to adjust and see what y'all want to do. So, but I can just tell you, it's not just Indian Rocks Beach. So.
Are any of the other cities talking about it like we are? Or
Not to my knowledge. But I don't know, I mean, like, I haven't seen anything like this except the pictures, and obviously I think a lot of this is because, at Greg's direction, they clean all this stuff up. So I think this recent stuff was the first time, well, I don't know if it was the first time, but the first time I seen these pictures to where it was like, look at all this stuff. So I don't think you saw the magnitude of the problem in the past. Because they did such a good job of cleaning up, and the citizens as well, like you all were saying earlier. So this was kind of like, something needs to be done. So we're just trying to figure, I'm just here to see what y'all want to do, and we need to adjust and do what we can.
One thing I would add quickly too before you open it up to public comment is that these are the trucks that we have that are four-wheel drive that we can take down the beach. We haul off 22 loads, that size truck loads of debris off the beach on July the 5th. Thanks, Captain.
would any of the commission like to speak at this time to Captain Lerner, or will wait? Okay. All right.
Okay.
Hang out.
I'll be here.
Would the, is that it, Greg? Okay. Commission, I'd like to go out to public comment at this time. Are you all okay with that? Okay, at this time, we're interested in what all of you have to say about this subject. And you have 3 minutes, so if you would like to come forward and state your name and your address and give us some of the information that you would like us to know about the fireworks.
Yeah, glad I'm up here right away. My back's killing me in that chair. RV Plumber, that's what it's the 1216 Bayshore Boulevard. I worked at Amalie Arena for about 25 years, so I have a little bit of background in pyrotechnics. And here you have those people on the beach using what's known as a 3-inch mortar round. They're very explosive. Maybe at the next workshop or meeting, the fire guy can tell you how explosive they are. And I saw one go off at ground level. It never went into the air, and it blew a big hole in the sand. So these are dangerous explosives. Now in the business, you need a license to fire these fireworks off. So you have a law or an ordinance that somebody's ignoring. Now, is it the city ignoring it, or is it the county? So I think Greg Mims should just pass this off to the county if anybody gets injured on our beach, this is the county's fault, because they're allowing this to happen. I gotta go, my back's killing me.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to come forward at this time?
I have to admit that I don't have to go anywhere to see
Excuse me.
Oh, Bill Thomas, 470 20th Avenue, short-term rental lane. But seriously, we don't leave our house to see fireworks anymore. We just stay in the back of our house, and there's plenty of them. I think there's more than what Clearwater puts out sometimes. But what it scared me was that the ones that didn't go all the way up were exploding and hitting people's boats that are very, gasoline out there. Don't just concentrate on what's happening on the beach. Just concentrate on the whole city as a whole is my point I want to make. Because a lot of people have a high investment in their backyard, and they want to keep it protected. And the ones that were next to us, definitely, we had to get two neighbors to go over there to stop them. I almost scared to go by myself, but anyway. And we called the police, we called the fire department, but when you do it on 4th of July and New Year's Eve, they're not going to be able to come out and do anything. So I'm sure, I don't know what the answer is to the problem, but it sure needs to be looked at and addressed. Thank you.
Beth Bassett, 2200 Gulf Boulevard. I was thinking that perhaps if the city put on a display of fireworks, that would eliminate people coming down to the beach to sit out the room. I know it's very expensive, but you're spending a lot of money cleaning up the beach, and maybe that would be a deterrent to some of these people. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Thayer, 1819 Bay Boulevard. Obviously, all this is illegal. I understand that there's no way on July 4th for the Sheriff's Department to stop all these people. But if the law is in place, enforcement is necessary. If Indian Rocks Beach has become the known place to bring U-Haul that's full of fireworks, then before the next 4th of July, and it's not just 4th of July, we've had issues Labor Day, any holiday anymore, they'll be going off all over, and not just the day before, 2 days ahead and 2 days late, until they get rid of all the damn thing. We need, before any of these holidays, I would suggest that Indian Rock put out some full-page ads or something and get the word out that it's going to be enforced, and try to slow some of this stuff down. Sounds to me like we're letting it happen and causing our own issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
John Fansfield, 448 Harbor Drive. I'll just follow up on that comment. The same thing is, instead of newspaper ads, perhaps just large signs a week beforehand coming in, and on each beach access saying that it is against the law and people will be prosecuted. I absolutely love fireworks. I used to make fireworks, and I found out you can make mistakes when you're setting off fireworks. So you're going to have a lot of people. There's a lot more danger than most people realize with those. And after seeing things like that, my eyes are open on this. If you close down fireworks on the beach, I will fully support them. Thanks.
Thank you,
Julie Hoofnagel, 2 Fifth Avenue, Indian Rocks Beach. I actually have the before picture of that right here. Somebody pulled up the U-Haul and unloaded that, and they were so happy with themselves. And it's not just one group, it's many, many groups. And we need to change the culture in Indian Rocks Beach about fireworks, and it's not a sign that's put up a week before. it's a plan, and it has to be a plan that's probably start many months before, and involving having news crews and putting ads in papers and whatever else. And I'm not an expert in it, but we need to have a plan well before 4th of July, before the month before 4th of July, but a quarter before 4th of July possibly, and how we're going to change it. And I don't know how we can do that. I mean, we're going to have the sheriff's presence to that year, so it's a huge undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Tricia Priest, and I live at 342 La Hacienda Drive, Indian Rocks Beach. You know, I always loved the fireworks, but until the last few years when we started these cleanups and everything that Cookie has instigated, I never realized what a horrible problem it was for the turtles and for the birds and for all these things, you know, because I never really went down to the beach. But after hearing all of this, I'm absolutely flabbergasted, and knowing that it's against the law, I agree with what other people have said, is that we have to find a way to make this plan that starts now to let people know that we're not going to allow this on our beaches, and maybe deputizing people like big kids that know, you know, that can stand at each beach access. We have 27 beach accesses, right? More than any other in Pinellas County. And also use our banner at the beginning of the city to say no fireworks, and then also get the media out and this information out, because this really has to stop. It's really hurting our environment. So thank you very much for bringing this up. I'm in support.
Charlene, do you feel comfortable coming out? Is there anyone else who would like to come up at this point? Charlene, do you feel comfortable if I explain what you told me the other night? Sure. Okay. I'm going to, you know, I have the Monday with the mayor, and different people come in, and Charlene has lived in Indian Rocks Beach for many, many years. She has 2 parties a year, and one of them is the day of the 4th of July. And she doesn't drink. She goes down to the beach where her access on 16th is. She has all of her fireworks. She monitors them. She makes that sure that they are not near anyone. And I just, you know, all I want to say is there is another side of this issue, and that, and I do totally get that it's illegal. I'm very upset about the birds, and that you feel that. How do you feel, Wendy, about the situation? It's horrible. But I do, there is another side to the people who are very concerned with what they're doing, and they take safety very seriously. So I just wanted to add that too, that there is another side. And with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Anyone, Ron?
Ron Sacral, 368 La Hacienda Drive. Listen to everybody talking tonight. Everybody's on the same page. They want to do away with fireworks on the beach for safety, for noise, for environmental purposes. The only way you can do it is enforce what we have on the books already. And we need to have a task force put together with the police department, with the city manager, with citizens, to come up with an idea of putting people or something at each access at these big events, and then have publications before the event to let people know that there will not be tolerated any fireworks on the beach. Until someone has set the example by going to jail because they're disobeying the law, it's going to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it up. Randy, what would you like to add?
I just want to add, so it informs your discussion. Of course, you have the city's comments staff and other individuals. I want to remind you that at present, the way your code reads, in section 34-4 of the City of Indian Rocks Beach Code of Ordinances, it states that it is unlawful for any person to offer for sale, expose for sale, sell at retail, use or explode any firework as defined by the laws of the state within the city, except by special permission of the City Commission. The code continues to kind of a belt and suspenders approach and double down and make it clear that that applies to the nature preserve and the Clairboat docks. So I just wanted to make you aware. I know much is focused on a particular portion of this city and certainly the city's prized possession of its beach. But at present, the ordinance is citywide.
Who'd like to lead off? Ed?
I think I'd like to ask Greg to share some ideas that you might have to give us some things to debate, perhaps. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. In another beach town, coastal city that Michelle and I lived in that was still on property, and they had this exact same issue. And they put together a multi-pronged effort to deal with it. It took about 2 years to go through a cycle of education, notices to every property owner in the city, notices to condos, getting volunteers where in the past, you know, to Cookie's credit, we've had volunteers that were focused on particularly the cleanup aspect. Well, we would redirect some of those volunteers to work with additional law enforcement and city staff, people like Mike, that would be at every beach access during particularly in the late afternoon, evening, that would be there to hand people information so if they're about to walk on the beach with a dolly, they can explain to them that that's not allowed. Press releases, all the social media stuff that we use. This can work, but it takes a cycle. It takes a period of time to break the cycle that we're in. Because literally, on the internet now, we are the place where you bring your stuff, and I've read different sites, and there was communication back and forth about, you know, we want to see a fireworks display at Indian Rocks Beach. Well, there's not one. Well, let's just bring around stuff. So to answer your question specifically, Ed, I can manage that. And I can manage this working through A2K, the Homeowners Association, the fire department, the sheriff's office, and through, of course, the commission. It'll take a period of time. It's something we should start now. For, you know, we've got New Year's Eve coming up. So what I would be willing to guarantee you is a multi-approach system like that you will see a great improvement. And let me make one thing clear that maybe there might be a little bit of misunderstanding. When we talk about fireworks, I am talking about citywide. I have the same concerns about La Hacienda with a truckload of fireworks going off in our street as I do on the beach. There's some unique environmental things on the beach. So I believe it's doable. I don't have a problem at all if we're going to go through this educational enforcement effort to put together in writing for you how this will work. And then like we do in Indian Rocks Beach, we'll get all the great residents and volunteers that do ATK and the homeowners, we can get this done. And you know, Cookie had mentioned one individual, and I get that. I think I mentioned when I started my conversation that I grew up around, like John said, grew up around fireworks, but we're in an urban environment. You know, this is not a rural space that we're operating in. And unfortunately, and this is my opinion, I'm not speaking for everybody else, based on what I've seen, alcohol and other substances go right along with the fireworks that are shot off throughout the town. And the combination of those two things is not a good situation. So I would offer that I could put together a multi-phase plan. It's going to take a year or two to kind of work our way fully into it. And then after the first year or so, then you do a little, you use more of the hammer on the tail end of the process. But you know, if we have more law enforcement, which I can get, if we had more volunteers, that maybe we can focus more on the educational end, and we can do all the social media and all the other things. The word will get out, where people will then start to understand that we're gonna roll back, or we don't have 22 truckloads of debris on the beach after before. So I hope that generally answered your question.
Thanks, very good. Well, go ahead.
You and I talked privately, and then one young lady had mentioned about, I don't know if it would be in the beginning, for instance, next year, but at some point that we might do our own with our groups, some fireworks that we would control. Where would, that's a separate piece, I understand that. What are your thoughts as far as?
Yeah, that's a separate piece. I don't mind looking into that. That would need to be primarily driven by private donations, restaurants, and people that we all know. The cities that, the city of Gulf Shores, which is the city I'm referring to, that's what they did. They actually put in if we want to do that, Gulf Shores is a lot bigger town than we are, but they actually do a display, probably a mile off the beach, off a barge, and they do that. But I don't even know if we want to do that, because we have one of the largest fireworks displays, Clearwater Beach, that people can easily access. So it's very expensive, just a moderate firework display, you're talking about $50,000 and up. Because the people that you hire, like one speaker mentioned earlier, you have to be licensed and bonded, and if you do it off a barge, there's all kinds of things involved in that. So I would keep those two things separate. Let's try to work on this piece, and then if y'all want to pursue that, then I can have conversations and we can see where that goes. But we really need to get a handle on this first, I think.
Commissioner Flagg, do you have anything that you want to?
I think, well, first of all, I want to thank everyone that commented tonight, because, it's always good to have that input. And Greg, for you bringing this up, because I live very close to the beach, and the deterioration every year with fireworks and the things that have been happening has really, over the past, 5 to 8 years, has gotten continually worse. And the truckloads, one year we saw, a van come up with some high-powered stuff that they brought to the beach, and it's just a matter of time from a safety standpoint before someone's going to get really hurt, or something's going to catch on fire right on the beach, and we're going to have a hard time dealing with that. So I appreciate it, and all the things that our citizens mentioned, you commented on as well, and I think educating and starting the process may not be perfect the first go around, but John mentioned signs at all the accesses and the banners and newspaper, social media, all of that will help start the process, and I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and also everyone here tonight with your comments. Thank you.
Bill?
We talked about this a couple of years ago, about the possibility of a barge idea. This is not going to fix itself. It's very simple. I have a good friend of mine that I went to college with that actually is in this industry, and it is a dangerous industry, and he'll tell you that. But he has all the mortars, the licenses. He goes around the entire state of Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, and he puts on displays. And the only way you're going to fix this is the law enforcement has to be there. If people come onto the beach after the PR campaign says we're a no firework zone here, and if you're caught, you're going to get a ticket, or you're going to go to jail, depending on if you got mortars with you. I've been in the military, and I've been beside these mortars when they go off for training purposes, and they're not pretty. And that is in a controlled environment with sandbags all around it, pyrotechnic specialists that know what they're doing, and people still got hurt. Okay, so this is nothing to play with. One of my first years here, when we were out at the beach, I saw people with the Roman candles. There was a little girl about this high, and it went right by her face. She'd have been one more foot that way, she'd have been a hospital person. So I think that everything that's been mentioned is important here tonight, but we've got to set the tone and manner that it's a zero fire zone. Nobody's going to have any fireworks out there. If we can substitute with our own, i.e. the barge idea, that would be nice. Let us bring our fireworks, move it offshore, and this is the first I've heard about the turtles and the birds and things. It makes total sense too. But Greg, you also brought up that it is a city issue, because that's what people do on 4th of July. And I think the idea of a task force or a group of people together to see what other cities and beach communities have done will help, and then see if we can strike a plan. But it is going to be a while to do it. It's not going to be an overnight situation, and the education is real important.
Ed, anything else?
I fully support
Great.
not, like, whatever, Craig, you have in mind. I think it's a good plan, and let's keep our ordinances. I'd like to enforce it.
If I can just follow up on something Phil said, one of the reasons why you hire a city manager is to manage the day-to-day operations. With the relationship that I have, the relationship that the management team has with volunteer groups and individuals that can help us, I don't need a task force. I'll get a group of people together that I can assure you will volunteer. We'll figure this out. Obviously with Bob, the sheriff's office, and the fire department, and groups like I said, like A2K and homeowners, and any other person that wants to volunteer. But we can figure this out. But it doesn't have to be. We don't. I guess the point I'm trying to diplomat, but we don't have to slow it down by having a committee. I can figure this out with the help of a lot of people that are a lot more knowledgeable about this than I probably am.
Can I have one more thing, please?
Sure.
One other thing that, since the state is so interested in getting in our city affairs, it'd be real nice to have them come through and update their agricultural code and take the loophole out. And then the fact when we're on the beach, if somebody's got fireworks, can I see your license for agriculture, what you're going to do? No, I don't have one. That little paddy wagon, I'll take it to where we can find one for you. So.
Let me just say on that, I know the fire chief would back me up on this. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. But when this was put out, we put this out in the media that we were going to have this discussion. I got a voicemail, of course, the wonderful individual that left it didn't leave his name. And it basically was a person that's involved in lobbying Tallahassee about the fireworks industry.
Wow.
So we'd have about as much luck getting that done if we do some other things up there. But we can make this happen. We can figure this out, and we've got plenty of great folks here that can help work us through this process. It will be a process if the expectation is on December the 31st of this year, there's not going to be a missile shot up. That's probably not reality, but give it a year or two, we can, as somebody really put it well earlier, let's bring this issue back to what people in the IRB expect, not what somebody from out of town expects. And I think that's what we can do.
Well, I think, with the next holiday coming, and with the right police enforcement, and we're getting the word out, we'll see some improvements on New Year's Eve, for sure.
Well, thank you, Greg. Then we'll leave it up to you, and you will get back to us, or.
Yeah, I'll keep every meeting. I'll give you an update about what we're doing.
Okay. With that, we will go to other business, agenda item number 9. Is there any other business to come before this? Okay. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming tonight.